Ladies and gentlemen, the first weekend of the CDL is in the book, so that means that reverse sweep is back for the second season. But this time we're doing things a little bit differently. I also have some new faces alongside me. Two Call of Duty legends and aches will be joining me on reverse sweep. We're going to be talking about everything CDL related, everything Vanguard related, and realistically just whatever we want to talk about. But now that I've introduced everyone, first off, how are you guys doing?
Doing
A little
great,
pissed
man.
off.
I'm doing great. That was a great intro. I love the intro, Ian. Thank you.
You know what I'm saying, Doug? You're a legend in this scene. Pat, that's what you get for team nading me at COD Champs and then beat me
I think
for a ring.
you're. Yeah, I was about to say. I think you're
Chris-
a little bit more
Chris
upset I
knows.
beat you for the
I
ring.
just realized we were all teammates at Champs in 2015. Funny story. It was a
Except
good
not
time.
Doug, though.
Well, wait, Doug was on Facebook, but
He
No,
was.
Pat
yeah.
got me dropped for both of you guys, actually.
we're
we
FaZe.
all
We're
kind
all-
of like,
Wait, we were all
intertwined each other at
FaZe. We were
some
all
point.
FaZe at the event. There we go.
True.
But so I want to get your guys' opinion on how you thought the first weekend went from, the games. Obviously, we could talk about the production and the game itself, whatever the case may be. But first impressions of week one, I should say. Doug, if you want to take the floor, because you look the best out of these three.
Well, Ian, you're on a roll right now, man. I appreciate it.
I try.
I'm really happy with how the first week has went. Honestly, I was sitting in TeamSpeak with a lot of other guys watching a lot of these matches throughout the entire weekend. Obviously, like I have the Challenger tournaments too, so I'm kind of like trying to balance watching matches and playing at the same time. But from everything that I saw, the production looks great, which is awesome because I wasn't a fan of last year I know we had COVID and everything, but I felt like it was a little bit delayed. And I think now the studio's in person, right, with Alley Cat, Ant, and the entire desk.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, so it looks a lot better knowing that we have a studio in person and then cutting to those online interviews. I think from a production standpoint, it looks better. The only issue I really have with the current state of everything is the fact that we only have 2 control maps, so it makes these series just very basic. I think we really need to have a third control map in, but obviously that's not something that the players of the league can do anything about right now. So overall, I'm happy with like the current state of the production and the competitiveness of the teams, which is to me the most important thing. So I thought it was a really good opening weekend.
And I think based on that, esports engine killed it, bro. I think they need
Yeah, they did.
all the love. They need their flowers for sure. I think they were heavily missed from the Call of Duty scene in general, right? The last few years. And yeah, they came back and I think that's a huge win for Call of Duty in general, just the scene, the community. And then Doug, to your point, yeah, I think this year on Vanguard specifically is going to be a year unlike any other that we've seen so far. We were talking about it a little bit before we started, but like the skill gap in this game and how that kind of works, and these teams being as stacked as they are. We had London and Seattle; they're top 2 after the first week. So it's a big surprise for me. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out and see if those teams can stay consistent at the top.
Yeah, and to touch on that, the production, all that stuff has gone a lot better. Hell, even the soundtrack. Do you guys remember last year's soundtrack with the
Dude, the soundtrack was pretty good. It's pretty good right now.
Pretty good, right? Like everything's a lot better from the production standpoint. Everyone's doing a great job. And then just going back to the competitiveness of the matches, like let's say you didn't really like pay attention to the kickoff and you didn't really like super hardcore follow the scene, but you did like have a general idea of how these teams played out last year in Cold War. If you were to look at the standings right now and see the teams that are winning, there would be a lot of surprises. Like you see how good Seattle's doing. Like imagine, looking back at Seattle last year, granted it's a completely different roster and just put the name of it, right? And just seeing how well they're doing. Now you're just kind of like, what the hell's going on with the CDL, right? So I think that's just
wild.
a test. Yeah, I think that's just goes to show how competitive this year is going to be. And I think a lot of it's going to come down to the game, but not to take away credit from any of these hardworking teams and players that have been making improvements on the game and then off the game with just like recruiting a lot of talented players.
I mean, shit, Sib looks like a top 3 player in this game right now, right? And he was in Challengers last year.
He might be the best.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
He might be the best.
Uncertified or undeniably top 3 right now, without a doubt. I'd probably have like, let's think. Sib. I don't think anyone. Well, Cell. I think Cell's in the top 3 right now. He's looking good, which is surprising, right? Because he's always been nasty, but he was always fighting against having aBeZy and Simp. But so far, on this game, he looks like the best player on that team. And I don't know who to round out my top 3 with. Maybe Cammy or Kleenex, because those guys are looking nasty as always.
Yeah, so now we're kind of like segueing away from like, our introduction and stuff like that. We're talking about actual teams and players. Like who do you like out of all the teams, right? That have came into this game. What team obviously has surprised you? What teams have surprised you the most? Like with the start of the season, how well they've been doing? Because I've got two in my mind.
Well, there's an
opposite.
obvious one. That's what I wanted to bring up. Is Seattle, because what you said, Chris. Even though it's still the beginning of the year, right? They did really good at the kickoff and they started 2-0, but there's a lot of game left. They remind me, or like how they look right now is like the Cincinnati Bengals in the NFL. Like they're in the Super Bowl. But 2 years ago they were like 4-win team, and they've been really bad for a while. And then all of a sudden you have this good team playing for your city. It's the same for Seattle. They were back to back, like second worst team in the league since the beginning of this.
Star player, right?
Yeah, and well, I mean, two honestly. You have Pred and Sib, but so their turnaround is crazy.
But to be fair, they had you. So like the turnaround, I mean, they as soon as they got rid of you, they were going up and up.
And they were still the worst. It wasn't me. We could change the narrative. We could just turn this into Enable tells all. I got robbed out of that situation. I didn't get robbed. I made a bag off them, but they were horrible regardless. Okay, with or without me.
Right.
And now, even though it's early on, they look like a legit contender. Like they could be a consistent top 4 at the worst team throughout the entire year. So I don't know if that is mostly because of Pred and Sib. I honestly think Sib, like you said, Pat, top 3 player in the game right now. Pred is a top 10 player in the game. I would say he might even be close to top 5, no lie, from what I've seen. Or if it's just kind of the perfect storm with accuracy. Obviously, you have Mac, who I wouldn't call him a veteran, but he has some experience. And they look good in my opinion. I think that they're going to be a contender all year long, honestly.
Yeah, I'm really
I just
hoping
want to
that.
touch on I want to touch on Seattle for a second too. Like I'm just looking at their last game versus Ultra. This is actually one of the games I couldn't watch over the weekend. Dante Sib had a 1.4 and they won last map round 11 because Lamar ninja defused. What were they in a 3v2? And he was just like, "Yo, I'm hopping bomb," and he just made the play to win.
The Iceman.
Yeah, like look. Like I have my differences with Lamar as a person, right? Like a lot of people know that, but like as a player, I've always said this about him, like privately or publicly. Like I've never really thought Lamar was as bad of a player as people always put him out to be. Like I always felt like he was the type of player who he'll give you the same thing in a tournament and in a scrim. So like whatever you're getting from him in a scrim, whether it's a hard 0.95 or a 1.0, 1.05, he's gonna do the exact same thing. He's gonna be a constant. I think every team needs that, and I think that the Seattle team is what you said, Ian, a perfect storm. I think Lamar being a vet, literally helping these younger kids like Pred and Sim. Because I've known Dante in challengers for 2 years now. I've been saying he's the most talented player. If you give Lamar talent, like you know this yourself, when he played with you, Kenny, and Pharaoh, you give Lamar talent, like he finds ways to win. And he made a winning play, literally won the game. I mean, if he doesn't hop on that defuse right there, they probably lose. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. Like, I just don't like all the disrespect on his name as a player, to be honest with you, because I think he makes winning plays on the map, and I think he's just surrounded by so much talent. Like, Mac, Pred, and Sib. Like, Pred was the one guy I just didn't really know about because he came from Australia. I didn't follow Australian COD at all.
He was dominating.
He was a professional soccer player and a model.
Was he actually? Wait, was he actually?
I swear to God, yeah, he was a professional soccer player in Australia, supposedly, and a model.
Triple threat out of.
He's the Australian you, Doug.
Like, I can't even tell if you're trolling. Like,
no, I swear on my life.
Such a straight face.
I swear on my life. That's what I heard. I mean, I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, shout out that guy.
Lamar's the prime example of someone who, and it's why he gets a lot of hate. Obviously, he's very outspoken too, especially towards a lot of the people's or the fans' favorite teams, OpTic. But he isn't the most talented. Like, he is a talented player, but he's not some flashy highlight player. But yeah, but he is the ideal teammate / leader / player. Like, he's going to outwork you. You know, he's very smart and he's very methodical what he does. And I think, like you said, Doug, when he has talent around him, he becomes like, he reaches a higher level of himself because he knows that he doesn't have to go make these crazy plays. He just needs to keep the team in order. He needs to play as methodical as you can in each COD title for, you know, the most optimal way to play. and he does it better than damn near anyone.
You could trust him to win under the highest pressure. I mean, you played with him and you won events with him. Like I've never played with Lamar. I've watched him play on New York Subliners. Like I sat there and I watched the scrims, but like, dude, like I know that Lamar could win tournaments. Like he's already won on LAN. Pat, unfortunately, I mean, he lost to you in the finals, right? And Ian, you both lost to Pat. I mean,
Thanks, Doug.
Jordan of COD, though.
Let's segue out of this. I think
listen,
we've had enough of Lamar.
Hold on. So I think Seattle is a big surprise.
Huge.
But to me, there's two big surprises. One being, and they're on the flip side, right? One being London, right? The challenger players out of the European scene have just came in and started dominating so far in the pro league. Gizmo looks insane. I had them low in my rankings. I'm not gonna lie. Kind of when I was just basing what I think the top 12 would look like, I had them low. But he that team and him, they look really good. So I got my eye on them for how that's gonna play out. And on the flip side of that, OpTic has surprised me. I thought OpTic was going to come in, from what I heard based on like early scrims and stuff like that, I thought they were going to come in and be dominant, but they look bad, man. They look like they're playing with no direction. They look sloppy. Their consistency's off. One day, Seth's playing by far the best on the team, and everyone's kind of like 0.8, and then the next day Shotzzy's frying, but I don't know. I think they're not on the same page at all right now, and that team, they're do or die after starting 0-2 for me. Like, they got to figure it out.
I want to say I'm not surprised. Like, I'll be honest, I have not sat there and watched a lot of, scrims and stuff like that. I don't even know like what
apparently they were frying though
anymore. I know, but it's just knowing the players on it and how they have like performed in tournaments and just kind of like higher stakes stuff. I know Ender has had his frantic moments. Like, you go back and watch Empire last year, where he just had a string of inconsistencies, and I love Ender and I think he's a good player, and I'm not trying to like sit there and bash on anyone, but he just happens to be an inconsistent player. And if you look at his stats from last year, he gets into a lot of engagements. Like, you can tell he's playing at a very, very fast pace, and it's almost like hectic and kind of frantic. And so
he's hovering about at a career 0.9, by the way. That's kind of like his career stats based on last year and right now. It's about.
You just got that on the notepad? What's my career?
I don't have your career. It's low, but I don't have it.
No, it's probably 108, 1.08.
But Ender, to Chris's point, Ender's considered a superstar, right? Especially on this team. A career 0.9 is surprisingly low for me.
It's just one of those things where I just feel like he's prone to make a lot of mistakes because of like how over aggressive he kind of gets. Like, he takes a lot of chows, and it's kind of like even Dashy, he takes a lot of gunfights that, arguably you don't need to like take. And like, I think for me, those two players are the players that you kind of like need to look out for on this roster. And I'm not saying that they're going to cost or anything like that, but like, those two players are more prone to making mistakes on the map than, let's say, Seth and Shotzzy is, man. Shotzy's been playing really good. Shotzzy just played really good in their last match, and Scump these last 2 years, man, he's looked good. Like, he looked good all of Cold War for the most part, and he's been looking pretty good now.
He's rolling the clock back.
Consistent-wise, he's the best on their team right now.
Like, he's consistent as hell.
I have two things about them. Obviously, they're only 0-2, right? They lost 2 Game 5 round 11s. Now, even though there was very tight L's, they should have won both of those series for sure. A lot easier the game should have been a lot easier, even the maps that they won. But I firmly believe, I've said this a bunch recently, actually, I don't know if you guys agree, that you find out your team's ceiling very fast. Like, you find out if your team actually is going to be a contender, or you're going to kind of be middle of the pack to low tier team. Like, it's very rare for a team to start off bad and then you see them turn around without some sort of roster change. The best example for me personally was 100T in Black Ops 4. When we had Pharaoh, right? We were super hyped up. Everyone, all the fans were like, oh, us and OpTic are the most talented teams on paper, right? We were stacked. But it just didn't work. And we knew, we got like top 12 at the first event. We knew, I knew, I don't know if the rest of my team did, but that like, we're probably not ever going to win with this roster. But then when we made that switch to Priestley, even though it was only one person, it completely changed the team dynamic. And even though we didn't instantly win, we had that quick success and we rapidly improved, if that makes sense. So while I don't think it's like make or break, like Pat's saying, they need to start showing something, or they won't turn it around with this 4. They will have to make a roster
unless
change.
there's like a severe like meta change or they make changes at some point during the season. Probably not.
When I say make or break, I mainly mean like make or break to be, kept in that top 4 conversation, right? Like
That's fair.
Yeah, and I think too, like there's only 5 games, right, in this first stage before they go to this, event on LAN. Um, there's a real possibility that they start in losers right now. Like, and that's crazy. Looking in the beginning of this year, kind of where we held them, and like thinking about the hype coming into this roster, this Envy OpTic merger, and they're starting 0-2. Granted, the losses were close, but they shouldn't have been. I don't know. It's interesting, and they don't have the easiest games coming up, so we'll see it kind of how it plays out with time. But to me, they're my biggest surprise so far, because I anticipated them to be so much better.
I think OpTic need Doug.
Well, I think, regardless, I think that they have so much talent, obviously on paper. Like, dude, I was blessed to be able. I play with Seth in MW3. Pat, thank you so much. That was one of the greatest months of my career. We never dropped the map, and it was phenomenal.
We're frying.
This guy Seth was just a walking automatic 2-piece. I'd spawn in, I'd pull a flag, and he'd pop a 2-piece, and we win every map. And then I had you and Tyler. Like, Seth is a beast. Brandon's a beast. I mean, Brandon would never go neg when I play with him. Like, he literally would never go negative. Like, if Brandon had a map where he went negative, it was like the world was ending. I never played with Indir and Shotzzy, but I think very highly of them too. So like, I think on paper the team's great, and it's really hard for me to say like, yeah, like their ceiling isn't high enough to win because they lost 2 Game 5 round 11s. But I will say that it does say to me, like I think that if you lose Game 5 round 11 and you lose it consistently, it says a lot about your team. Because I do remember just going back in the past with AW, Pat. You remember when we played with Slasher and Apathy? How many Game 5 round 11s did we win? Like our win loss in Game 5 round 11.
Every series that event, I remember.
Dude, Ian, like we would never lose a Game 5 round 11, and those Game 5 round 11s make or break careers. They make or break your tournament. They make or break your stock as a player. I mean, Pat,
Confidence too.
Game 5 round 11s are more demoralizing than losing 3-0. I will not be told otherwise.
Yeah.
Even Chris, even with you, like
They
remember
are actually
Ghost?
the biggest 5 kill. Yeah, 100%.
Ghost, Sovereign,
Like,
S&D, like Game 5 round 11.
those just those break up your team, because like in the moments where you need your teammates the most to perform, right at the end of a match where you need to clutch up and get this victory on the board, and you lose like that to like me, that's like a letdown. Like, you just let me down. I just let you down. Like, we let ourselves down. Like, that's like where you start to lose trust in your teammates. Like,
So
losing those when they stack up.
I want to ask you a question. So you played in the CDL last year, like Pat and Ian, you didn't play last year in Cold War, right? In the CDL?
No.
So I haven't been in the CDL as a player, but you were, Chris. Like, you played in these actual league matches where you just play like one match and it's super important, then you're done. Like, if your team last year, because this OpTic team just lost 2 Game 5 round 11s back to back, like what do you think you and your team would be feeling like in that moment because of how important these matches are now?
Oh, I mean, it's like I said, it's one of those things where you just start to lose trust in your teammates. It's like what especially when you know you're a team as capable as like OpTic. The way I see it, it's like, bro, we should be winning these teams. We should be beating these teams. We should not be in a position to be in a map 5. Like, when does like, oh, we have all this talent, we should be winning, we should be performing like this and this? When is that like not an excuse? Like, when does that stop being an excuse? At that point you start to lose trust in your teammates. And that's like when rosters are more likely to kind of start changing. And I'm not saying that's going to happen to them. It's the beginning of the season, but like, they need to start showing some dominance. Like, you put a team that's this fucking stacked. Sorry for my, I don't know if we're even allowed to say that, but you put a team together that's this stacked, and you're going last map with no offense to any of these teams, but London, who historically, throughout granted it's a completely different roster. They were obviously not a, contender. They were not, predicted to be good. And then Minnesota, who it's like on paper, you just out talent them. Like,
yeah.
So you should be like beating them.
Like rookies and just a good S&D team. Like, you're losing respawns to a good, and because ROKKR last year couldn't put their respawn together. That was the biggest hurdle for that team in general. But they're just clutching up because OpTic. To me, it's close the whole time, and then they lose their fucking minds in the last like minute of the game. Like, they just forget how to play. They lose all coordination, and they just look so sloppy. They're solid for 8-9 minutes to the hard point, and then when it comes down to the wire, it's just like nothing. Like there's nothing.
You look at that team though, it's like who's going to step up and be a leader? Who's going to step up and bring
well,
the
it's
clutch
sad,
factor?
but it
and
has to
like
be
that?
Ender. It's like sad when you think about it. For that roster, to me, it has to be Ender. It's not going to be Seth. Seth's never been that player his whole career. I don't think it'll be Seth ever.
It won't be Dashy.
It definitely won't be
Maybe
Dashy.
Shotzzy. Maybe Shotzzy.
I still don't think it'd be Shotzzy because Shotzzy reminds me more of like Kyler in a way. Like I just don't see him like that guy's playing at a pace that no one can keep up with.
So, like,
I don't know if he's like
a,
going yo let's set this up like.
Ew.
That's so like unfair though. It's like you put it on like one of the players with the least amount of experience. And I'm not saying like
that's
targeting
part
anyone,
of
but,
roster
like,
construction, right? Like that's
yeah. That's what I'm saying. But like that was their issue. Wasn't that their issue last year? It's like you looked at the team. It's like who the hell's leading the team last year? The OpTic team.
I mean,
it's like
it should be a team thing. It should
be. But realistically, how rare is it that that's actually a thing in COD?
Well,
like,
I think
from a
right.
personal experience from like playing COD for such a long time, how often is it that most players can like think for themselves 24/7 in a game?
No, yeah, it's hard. It's hard.
Bro, people can't even shoot and call out at the same time.
Exactly.
And I know we talked about that all the time.
Right?
Like people literally can't do the simplest thing. So I think you're right. It should be a team thing. It's situational, right? Of who's gonna call it, whatever the play is at the time. But some people don't. They're way too zoned in and they don't make those what would be game-winning plays. But yeah, I don't know. I think it was a roster construction thing and that had to have been considered. But I think too, the point was we have so much damn talent, like that's going to be a small worry for us. But I think it's coming to bite him in the ass. So we'll see.
I mean, they also have Ray, but I think
but he's not in game.
Doesn't matter.
That's true. That's true. I think the biggest difference, because like you said, Chris, and I mean we were all kind of talking about it, is they play the majority of these maps so well. Mm-hmm. Right? It just when you get down to the nitty gritty, the final moments where they just can't win. And I think if you try and compare them to a team like FaZe, right? Obviously, FaZe, that team before already has the experience together. They already have the chem. They're proven to everyone, right? They've won a championship, multiple events, whatever. But going into this year, people were saying OpTic and FaZe had the most talented rosters, most stacked rosters on paper, which I would agree with. And FaZe was kind of getting, people were on the fence about them after losing the kickoff and even their performance versus it was Paris, right? Where they almost lost, I believe.
Yeah.
But the biggest difference is even like right now, FaZe, I don't think is playing up to their expectations at all. Not even close. They still find a way to be 2-0 after the first week, after the first set of matches. Simp's not playing well. None of them really were playing fantastic in the matches that I watched besides Cell, like you said, Pat. But they still found ways to win.
They're slopping, but they're getting by.
Yeah, so and it makes sense. They are a championship caliber team, and it's been proven. Whereas OpTic, it's almost the opposite in terms of they play, like I said, all those maps so well up until it comes down to, put the dagger in the other team, close out the game.
Basically, if you're a team, like if you want to just kind of wrap this up, if you're looking at OpTic, it's like, granted, they have all the talent in the world, and on paper, you look at their team and like this team should be competing for championships. I'm not sold based on the results that we've currently seen, in the league and in the kickoff and everything. They still have to prove that to us, and they have to prove that to themselves. And if things keep going south, that's when the roster is gonna, end up having issues. So I think that's just kind of the story of it. Like I don't think they're championship caliber right now.
So what about you, Pat and Doug? Do you think those four, I don't want to say can win, because obviously I already know your guys' answer. But like, yeah, anyone can win. But like realistically, do you think those four have a good shot of like being a championship team this year?
Pat, go first.
I'm on paper, obviously, yeah, you're right. The
OpTic fans will watch this, Pat. So,
I mean, to me, the problem is I expected this team to be a respawn powerhouse, but I expected them to be a good ass search team, and to me, they don't look good in S&D right now at all. And that's a problem, right? That's a huge problem for this roster. You have two, what you would consider S&D stars in Dashy and iLLeY, right? Shotzzy has been playing really well in the last few years in search, and you have Seth, Seth knows what he's doing, but I don't know. I expected them to be way better in S&D, and so right now, if they're not an S&D powerhouse, I don't think they can win. Which is funny because I considered them going into this year a top 4 like no questions asked team who will probably win an event or two. But based on this game and how it's playing right now, nah, I guess I don't.
Choo.
Well, jeez, man.
Go ahead, Doug. Let it out. Let it out. Doug knows that he might be on OpTic, so he's not trying.
Doug, if you cap, I swear to. Oh,
Doug's about to get a sub spot.
Look, if you guys think I'm capping, you could call me out because I always keep it.
Lie to
100,
me,
man.
Doug. Lie to me.
I swear. Like, look at like a team like Seattle, and like we're just talking about accuracy. You're saying he's not the most talented. We all could agree accuracy isn't a Shotzzy. He's not a Sib, but he makes winning plays when it matters. And I feel like the players on OpTic, I don't know what it is, but like when it matters, it seems like they're not making winning plays. And in Search and Destroy, I think they're 1-4 so far. Like you said, Pat, like those 5-5 S&Ds, man. Like my career would have been a lot different if those 5-5 S&Ds did not go the ways that they did. And those really make or break your confidence as a team and as a player. I think it's only a foreshadow of what could come. It is online matches, to be fair. They did look pretty good at the kickoff, but they got to ice up in these searches. I mean, these players are notorious to be S&D stars. I mean, all these players in this team statistically are good S&D players. Even Seth, and people like to say that he's not, but he statistically he's one of the best ones. He's great at clutching ones too. So like I feel really bad for them. Like just seeing Seth rotate out of A to middle map to B, seeing that he's in a 1v3 and the bomb's going down, and then him putting his hands like this, like dude, I don't know, man. Like I've never lost that many S&Ds, especially as early as these guys have, and I don't know how they're gonna be able to regain from that.
I mean, shit. Today you saw like iLLeY throw his headset down after they lost.
That's what I'm
Bro,
saying.
was he pissed? Do you think he was pissed at like the team or the fact that he had a 2-piece lined up and got his shit double whacked?
Probably
Probably
like
a mixture of both.
Probably himself.
Dude, I don't know. I would have lost
knowing
sweat at that
Ender.
hard point. So I don't know. Probably a little bit of both because I think they went to that S&D like, fuck, we just blew map 4.
All
Like,
right.
we should have.
Now that we've talked about Ravens, we've talked about OpTic, we've talked about Seattle. What's going on with New York? Because they
look
I'm not
good at the
surprised.
kickoff. Hold on. They look good at the kickoff.
Why?
Hey, who did they play at the kickoff? You don't even know.
Boston. They beat Boston right away.
3-2 barely.
That was a good series, honestly.
It was a
They
good
still, They still look good. They got top 4. Like,
Huh? Like, really?
get
I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't think
They beat ROKKR, right? They 3-0'd ROKKR.
I think
yeah.
you're right. Yeah, they beat.
Yeah, they did.
Okay.
I mean, some players just
I'm
play
not
better
surprised
online,
with how they're performing.
that's
Actually,
a question
yeah.
mark for sure.
Like
Yeah,
I
actually,
didn't
hold on.
think. Did you guys think like? Do you think that they were gonna be a top 4 team, Chris?
No.
No, but like
Top
I just
6,
I
though.
expect more. Like I don't know. I'm buddy with Clay and Crim. I expect more. And honestly, now that I think about it, just looking at who they played, I'm not really surprised. They got smoked by Seattle, who's looked really good, and they lost to LAG. And I guess LAG, I feel like I look at that team and they should be better. But bro, just looking at them as like a team, like Clay and Crim, like bro, they're vets. They've been doing this for years, bro.
But did
Like,
you see the
they're
stats?
No,
But
I
that's
already know what Pat's gonna say. Wait, you're talking
Bro.
about like Neptune, right?
Yeah, well,
No,
all of
I
them,
know
bro.
that.
All of them.
of them, but
Bro, if I remember correctly, in that LAG series, Nep was neg 30, Clay was like neg 25, and Crim was like neg 20. Paco was the only one who went positive. Bro, but like when you're NYSL, and they're all for we're not to have
Hydra
the
needs
LAN
some
online
help.
debate. Yeah, no, 100%, but not to have the online LAN debate. That was a Texas v Texas matchup. All 8 players were in Texas, so there was no online ping issues. But to get absolutely
Valid
world
point.
starred by like 70 kills.
I was
Are you
about to
kidding me?
say, okay, yeah, maybe they just had a terrible week because they did look okay at the kickoff. But like, bro, I was like gonna segue into this. I'm like, you're talking about Clay and Crim. They've been doing this for years, bro. Online, like, I don't even know how they can try online anymore. Is that like such a bad mentality?
no.
Like, bro,
I mean,
you're not wrong.
I feel like
No, you're not wrong with that.
like, how the hell do you even
But
like try online? In
I don't think it's that at all.
Years. Like, it's,
Well,
I
the
know,
thing is, Chris-
it's just so hard. Like for me, just looking, like knowing them as people and like knowing the struggles that they've gone through as like players and stuff like that, and like the struggles I went through and things that kind of made me retire. It's like, bro, you know how demoralizing it is to like have to get on and play online COD like for this many hours a day when you've been doing it for so long, and you just
Hold
kind
on,
of
hold on.
It's not that demoralizing when you're making $300,000-$400,000
Hold
a
on,
year.
They also want an online
I
chat.
fully agree.
Facts, Doug,
money
that's
doesn't
also
change
true.
it, bro.
Wait,
like,
wait,
I don't know how to
wait.
explain
I
it.
fully agree with you, but here's the thing: with the new format in the CDL, your online actually matters going into LAN.
Oh yeah, I agree.
So like for them, whether they're fucking enjoying it or not, like Ian said, you're making 300K and you're on a team where you have two star-studded rookies who are fucking playing really good, mostly Paco, but like you can't just shit the bed and go into LAN where
Not
you
any
should
excuse for 'em.
dominate and start in loser bracket because you couldn't fucking try online. Like
Oh,
I
I'm
don't
not
think
making
that can be
excuses for them. I'm just like, damn, bro. Like,
no, I'm saying I don't think that
feel
can
for
be a
them in their
thing.
shoes. I don't think
I
it
just don't think
can
that
be
can be a
either.
thing.
But it's like I'm just saying I feel for them because you can go from like, for example, having a pretty decent performance on LAN to coming back home and just getting smoked. Whatever the case may be as to why that happened, it's just kind of like one of those things. As a veteran, it kind of just like it's kind of demoralizing. And I don't know.
Well, we will kind of, Clay did get COVID, and we don't know how long that took him to recover from it. He was obviously tweeting about that. But so if there was someone to kind of be affected by that, I think it would be Clay. But knowing Crim, dude, like, and this goes back to even when I played with Crim, like online LAN, it didn't matter. Like Crim was gonna go hard no matter what, and that's even small shit to him matters.
Yeah.
So I think he knows that they just suck right now. I don't know if they know why and they figured it out yet. But they suck, and
Yeah.
I think a lot of people had high hopes after the kickoff.
Way you
kind of
say it.
regardless of whether you had them high in your preseason stuff. But they played well at the kickoff, and then they've gotten back, and so far in these matches, they've just looked like shit.
Two
Yeah,
things I want
garbage.
to say. One, I feel like if I was to be playing with Clay and Crim,
Tell him,
margin
Doug.
forever. I
Tell
mean,
him.
regardless of who it is, like Neptune and Hydra stock is a million times higher than mine. But like, I could just know for a fact if I spawned in and I had Clay and Crim on my team, if I make one wrong play, they are yelling in my ears. They are telling me how I'm fucking up.
Did
And
you
some
hear their
people-
listening, Doug?
No, I didn't hear the listen. What happened?
Basically, what you just said, dude. They were in a pro. They're in a pro match, right? Not a scrim. And I forgot who they were playing. I think it was day one. And they're in a listening on NYSL side, and they're like, Clay was like bitching, like, yo, fucking rotate. And then you hear Crim like, yo, Paco, Neptune, you're calling out too loud. Like, calm down. Like, we're talking about mid-map. Like, the game they're barely losing. And you hear Crim and Clay like bitching about this irrelevant shit, like telling them to slow down and stop calling out so loud. Yeah, that's practice shit. You're in a match now, and that's funny too, because like Crim used to say that shit all the time, right? Like, because I did it. I was bitching a lot when people would make bad plays, but like, bro, that's something that just cannot happen in the middle of a match. Like, you don't do that in practice, do it all day long. But if in a match you're doing that shit, I don't know. Maybe there's bigger issues to figure out.
I'm sorry to cut you off, Ian.
No,
but
you're
I
right. Go
think
for it. Go for it.
If I'm somebody, like, I know I could handle that. Like, they could do that mid-match. Chris, you've done that with me on LAN. Like,
Match though?
No. I mean, not really. No.
Practice
but like,
for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have literally ripped my head off playing in practice with you guys, but I really like that a lot. Like, I feel like as a player, I'm the type of guy who needs that. Like, I need someone to tell me and hold me accountable to the highest standard, because if I want to beat the best, I need to be able to play like it. And you guys always held me so accountable, so when the match would come, I'd fry. So
See,
I feel
but
like
Doug, that's you though, and you have a
That's what I'm saying,
strong
like,
mental.
That's not a match though, bro.
these kids are in a different like mentality these days though. Like, I'm playing in challengers with like 18 and 20-year-olds, and they're just like, they shut down and they break down
Yeah.
the second there's any of that. So like, I agree with you in a match that shouldn't be happening, but maybe it's just like one of those things where these kids grew up idolizing these players, and then they're hearing them scream at them because they're not rotating, and it could mentally be affecting them in a way. And then also
Paco, bro. If I'm Paco, I'm like, motherfucker, you need to get some kills. Like, I'm flying.
Oh, that's the best. That's the best. That's the best way. Like, people are always talking about, like, dude, you were doing this wrong, this wrong, this wrong. It's like, yo, just get some more kills. Don't talk to me. Just shoot your gun. But
Ian, they're playing Thieves, Boston, and FaZe in the last 3 matches. New York. What do you think the record's gonna be?
they're playing Thieves, Boston, and FaZe.
Yeah, that's their last
and they're 0-1 right now, or 2?
0-2.
2.
There's 2, right? I wouldn't be surprised if they go 0-5. I'll be honest. Because Pat, you were saying, like, you don't maybe know that the reason why they're so bad right now. I do. I think from the get-go, their roster construction was horrible. Now, so let me preface this before, but no, I'll break it down. But I will preface this, like, I wouldn't be surprised if this team turns it around because they have Clay and Crim on their team, but it doesn't depend on them. So when teams were making their rosters this year, right, I think Crim and Clay probably got a little bit of that nostalgic feeling. They obviously won multiple times together, especially in MW. And I don't know if maybe Crim didn't have any other options. Clay didn't have any other options. But so they joined forces, and then they obviously keep Hydra from last year, and they pick up Neptune, who in Cold War, he wasn't that great until like midway to the end of the season, in my opinion. He was wildly inconsistent.
Yeah.
And I feel like once he did find his stride, he was good. But that Florida team was also a very loose team. You know, you don't have
a lot
like
different.
Yeah, exactly.
So York's gonna play.
And I remember Clay and even Tommy just telling me is like, it was kind of hard playing with Hydra because he was really good, but he also was, you know, even though he was getting all those damn kills, he was making mistakes, but also the language barrier, just for like the minuscule small talk, right? He wouldn't get where you need to understand it instantly. But so when you just have that combination of, you know, Clay and Crim are going to expect nothing but perfection, right? You have Neptune, who I feel like he plays at his best when he's more loose and can kind of...
He's a lot like Vivid to me.
Yeah, exactly. He can kind of freestyle on the map to however he feels comfortable. I feel like he plays better. And so far, he's been horrible on NYSL. It's obviously early, but I almost feel like he is being trapped in a box by Clay and Crim. I could be completely wrong, but he has like the least kills and the least deaths on their team throughout this series, where it's like Neptune is an aggressive player. You know, he is a player where you're expecting for him to have a lot of engagements. For him to have the least on the team in these two series, I don't know if maybe he is just kind of double guessing himself or whatnot, but I just don't like how they created the roster. The play
That's the player
styles
you want to go
make
rogue.
sense.
You want him to go rogue.
Yeah, you have one
map.
player that can go rogue on the team. Neptune.
Yeah, I think they kind of constructed it not knowing how the game was gonna play, right? Like, to me, they're still trying to play a Cold War-esque style, like wanting to slow down the comms and play heavy rotations. But like, yeah, you can't have your guy who's supposed to be your superstar, one of your superstars, your worst player and least engagements. And you're saying you're kind of like tallying that up to just the fact that Clay and Crim have kind of decided how they want to play as a team. And
You're wrong, but we've all teamed with Clay or Crim or both of them at one point. Sure. Like, we know how they are, you know. And there's nothing wrong with it. I'm like Doug, where I actually like that way of thinking and that way of leadership, where you like essentially demand perfection. And if you got to be an ass to get your point across, so be it. But for younger players like Neptune, like Hydra, they might shut down and just like, now they feel like they're being micromanaged by
or
these
just not want to play
legends.
that way at all. Right, like
they just don't have confidence in themselves because they're like, "Oh, do I make this play? This might be a bad play. I don't know anymore."
Exactly, and now you're
exactly what Chris said. Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if they turn it around. I also wouldn't be surprised if they go 0-5 and puts them in a bad spot. But it's all going to come down to how they react, Hydra and Neptune, to Crim and Clay. And Crim and Clay also haven't been playing well either. Like you said, Hydra's been the only one who has been getting kills.
Yeah.
Like, everyone else on the team has been a bot, basically. But you know that Crim and Clay, they have a lot more value than just their stats.
Yeah, maybe the coaches got to be involved, right? At a kind of a bigger level, like after practice, kind of reassure that those guys are playing well and kind of, step into. We're talking about like some of these players receiving information differently.
Who's their coach?
Revin and JP.
Yeah, you think Crim and Clay are listening to those one?
No, I'm not saying Crim and Clay. I'm saying like Revin and JP stepping in for like Hydra
yeah.
And kind of like playing that like neutral.
Situation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, yeah, this is what he really meant, blah, 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 just to make it so like people aren't getting down on themselves. So I think like what Chris said is right. And that's affecting, I think, Neptune more than anyone else. And that's someone you don't want to, as a player and the way he plays, you don't want him second guessing himself.
Honestly, this could be all speculatory. We don't know about their practice, but this is what it looks like from the outside.
Just spitballing. Yo, imagine.
That was a good stat, though, Ian.
Wait, hold on. Whether we're
had,
speculating or not, they're getting shit on. Like,
that's what I'm saying.
No
that's what I brought up. I'm like, bro, I look at this team, I'm like, they look horrible. Like,
bro, just imagine Revin talking to Hydra and Neptune and being like, yeah, so when Crim said you're the absolute fucking worst, most dog shit player he's ever teamed with, he actually just meant you got to rotate here. I would love to get behind the scenes footage of that.
That's an NYSL content piece for sure.
Dead ass. They're selling NFTs and fucking WWE in the
Bro,
background.
it's like, it just
Pat,
reminds
is
me
it
of that.
tough?
Sorry, go ahead.
Is it tough, Pat? You play with Clay and Crim. Is it tough, man? Because you're just
I
as
was the one
stubborn as they
bitching to
are.
them.
No,
bro.
yeah, they
I
got it
was
for
the one-
him. They
yeah, I
got
was
it
the one
for
bitching
him.
to them, telling
Aches
them how to
is literally
play.
Crim's dad, bro. I don't care. Aches will bitch at Crim.
But hold
It's
on,
not the
hold
other
on.
way around.
Something that I just thought of too is let's think about the age gap here, right? Like they're literally a decade apart.
That's
Those
his
duos,
That's
they're
his
a
dad, bro.
decade apart,
Wait,
bro.
Neptune and Hydra both early 20s?
Yeah, like 19, I think, 19, 20.
Whoa.
And Clay and Crim are 29, 30. Like they're legit a decade apart, bro. So like
Oh.
just like communication wise, bro, like that's a big step, right? Like
Yeah. Oh, it's like what Doug said too, especially in the challenger scene. They're obviously past that. Neptune and Hydra are both professional players and well
oh, for
deserved.
sure.
But when you are younger in general, like younger pro players, even probably for all of us when we were younger, you know, I was focused more on just my own gameplay, not really worrying about the small talk and just the most optimal way to communicate. So it probably is taking some time for them. And like you say, or said, Crim and Clay, they've been around. Not only have they been around, they have experience. Yeah, they've been around the block a couple times at this point. And so there might be some disconnect. I don't know. It's like bring your son to work day with them.
They just got no chem, bro. Like that's all
Yeah,
it is.
It's like they're just not hanging out. Either, you know what I'm saying?
Bro,
Like,
I can't see
I'm
Crim or Clay hanging out with them. Like
Scrim's done. Yo, peace. Like, be here tomorrow at 3 p.m. Like, they're not hanging out and building that chem. But you can't blame them.
Go get a drink together, bro.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know. I just think the whole team dynamic is weird. Maybe they could turn around. It is still early, but damn, they have tough matches next week. I could for sure see them, unfortunately, going 0-5.
Dude, it's funny because I
they
think
can win at
best
least
case.
one.
That's what I was gonna say, Doug. Best case is they win one. Like that's
Best
kind of how
case,
I'm
no,
looking
I
at
think
it.
I think
Best
they can
case
win
they beat
2.
one. Yeah.
Bro,
No,
I
best
don't-
case they win 2. I think. I think best case they go
Ooh.
2-1.
Wait, I think they can beat Boston. What
I
else
mean,
is there?
Look,
Well, yeah, they beat Boston at the
FaZe,
kickoff.
no.
yeah, they beat Boston. At
I
the
mean, they
kickoff.
could.
They can't beat Thieves.
They're not beating Thieves, bro.
I think they realistically they could beat all 3 teams. I mean,
Yeah, I agree with Ian.
from what we've seen so far,
Nah.
I mean, Pat, FaZe literally almost lost to Paris.
I don't care. Like it's
You
just
know,
like
I'm just saying it's early
They
game.
got outslayed by like 70 by LAG.
Okay, you're right. I mean, but LAG is not. I don't think they're a bad team either. Realistically, they're not going to
Thieves,
win
though?
3. I mean, look,
LAG to Thieves, like I'm thinking Thieves is way better right now.
no, yeah, they are. I'd agree with that, but I'm just saying, they can win. Will they?
Yeah, I mean, COD's
No.
day to day. We know that.
It's more likely they don't win a match or don't win a series than win 3 for sure. But it'll be interesting to see kind of how they go about it. I don't know. It's
We'll
just
see.
the vibe is weird. Doug, let me hear. Give me something you want to talk about because having Pat in here, I know he cuts you off all the time, bro.
Well, I think to me, honestly, the London Royal Ravens are the biggest surprise because on land, like they just didn't look that good. It could have just been like a pregame jitter thing. They only played 1 series and they got 3-0'd, but like
Fast too.
It was really fast.
Can't even fault them, bro. You know they flew there, sat down, played 30 minutes, and they're just like, all right, let's fly back.
I just I look at this league in general and like you look at the best teams and the worst teams, and I feel like there truly is like such a small margin of error between being a champion and also just like being literally bottom of the barrel. Like right now, OpTic
the
Texas
game is
and the game could have something to do with it. So that's a whole nother conversation, Chris. But right now, like OpTic Texas technically is bottom of the barrel, right? And like London Royal Ravens is top of the line. Like they're a top tier team according to the matches. It's only been 2, but
it's the first week.
like people say like, oh, Paris is the worst roster. Like really, Fellow, Temp, John, and Desi, like that's a good team. Like those are
Oh,
good
they played
players.
pretty well too for like.
They're
Yeah, I'm
good.
kind of
people had
surprised
them.
they were not playing terrible. Like they
Even the
didn't
Boston
win,
team.
but like they didn't get clapped. Like they didn't get.
They were
New York.
competitive. They were competitive. You know,
John
NYSL
had,
is a free dub at the moment.
John had
Paris, though?
moments of greatness, bro. John was looking good.
Yeah, well, there were some respawns where John needs to clean it up because he's been pretty inconsistent in respawns right now,
Yeah.
especially hardpoint. But yeah, he had some moments, especially search and just overall just like plays that he was making that looked really good. Like
I mean,
game.
bro, I
changing plays.
compare that to last year, and I'll take that. Like from
for
from
sure,
a John
yeah.
perspective, like I'll take it. So
I think
probably
I
not
honestly
with that
I
roster right
think like you said, Doug, yeah, there's a small line from being considered like a top tier team right now to bottom of the barrel. And it could be from the time to kill, from the game itself, the maps, the modes, which we could touch on in a second. But I do want to say one thing. I think the Paris team, because they don't really get talked about that much for obvious reasons, I think this is like the best team and environment for all four of those players.
For sure.
To where
Yeah.
you to like actually use it as a stepping stone to really get their stock back to where it was.
They're all four in the same spot, right?
Exactly. Like they've all been considered very good, like top 10 players in past COD titles. And then I think, you know, when you look at like Temp and John, especially last year being on LAT, you're expected of a lot. You know, it's not like you're going to a small market team and you can kind of get your footing back, you know, into the game and be comfortable. And then with Decimate and Fellow, this is like, if you guys kind of burn out or fizzle out, whatever, it doesn't really matter. No one's expecting much. But this could be huge for them.
They all have nothing to lose.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They all have nothing to lose.
There's 10 fans of Paris Legion, you know. So
I mean that's just because they don't even tweet out that they.
It's not anything with the players. It's that is, we could talk about that. They got to sell their spot if we want to change narrative. But I'm just saying, so there's not pressure, you know. They're not on OpTic where it's like, if I have
that's all you had to say. You didn't have to say they got 10 fans.
Well, they got no
expectations.
expectations. They got no expectations, right? None. No one's expecting them. No one's set any expectations for them. So everything they do is going to be a win if they do it well, right? Like any upset, the win for them. And yeah, I think you're right. All four of those players are kind of back against the wall, like playing for their stock, right? Playing for their stock back.
This is a make or break for, I think, all of them.
All of them, yeah.
Like this year or however long.
Because there's a very real scenario, right? If they do bad as a team this year, then all four of them might find their way out of the CDL, right? But if they do well, then it might open up more opportunities for them, you know, going into next year and years beyond. But yeah, so let's talk about the modes, because this something to me is a big issue, and I just learned it recently. But right now, for control, because there's only two control maps, whoever wins the coin flip picks the third map. Like, you legit pick it. So, like, I was talking about this. Bro, Paris played Atlanta, right? And they won the coin flip, and they got Gavatu. Like, they got to pick. And what's funny is, like, the control maps right now, there's one AR control map and one sub map, right, with Tuscan. So, like, depending on the team you're playing, if you win the fucking coin flip, you almost win the third map.
Yeah.
Like,
you have like the most advantage that you could possibly get
of any veto system ever. I'm
gonna keep it honest. It's not on the veto system though. Like,
no, but it's on the fact there's two maps.
Yeah, bro, there's two maps. Like, we were playing freaking like 4 hard points.
But I would
like 2 SMDs like the first like couple weeks. It still hasn't changed much. Like,
but I would rather just some shit third map be in the rotation just to avoid that from happening.
Would you?
Yes, to avoid that from happening. But right now, whoever wins the flip is like happy as hell.
I mean, think about it, Chris. We played, bro. We were playing like London or not London Docks. Jesus Christ. What was that map in World War II? It was that small ass CTF map. You were like outside. There were turrets.
Flag Tower.
Yeah, bro. That map is one of the most most.
We put you on that every series.
Built.
Wait, that map was lit,
bro.
Wait,
not for TK. Not for TK.
That was so fun.
That was auto veto.
Yeah, that was on. No, y'all auto veto.
That's the auto veto.
It was. That's what bit him in the ass.
We had a couple auto vetoes. We don't need to touch on that. But like, I agree with Pat. Not even for control. I don't know when they're coming out with more maps. Right? They have to. But from a viewer standpoint, and I know it's only worse from a competitor standpoint, just because, like you said, that's so whack that if you win the coin toss and you're going up against a heavy AR team, hey, we're gonna pick the sub control, you know, like whatever the case may be. But they need to have more maps because it's gonna get stale really quick in general. I feel like I've seen the same maps in every single series, and
like 3 on repeat.
Bro,
And and what I was going to say though is it's just they need more variety. Simple as that. And I don't know if they're even going to add more maps. Like I don't know what their plan is.
Well, the problem is even if they do, are they going to be good?
Nah.
It needs the cold. This game, I said it when the game released after playing it for literally 2 days. I was like, this game needs the Cold War treatment. Just remakes, reboots.
Hey, respectfully, you know the game got to be bad if it broke. Baby. It broke Chris. It broke Parasite.
It broke me, bro.
I saw his retirement tweet and I was like,
I've been known for grinding through the mud, bro. Like nothing could stop me. This game, it actually killed it. Like murdered the drive, bro. Murdered.
Since you're the only one out of us three that is actively competing, like, A, this is a general question. Are they adding more maps? But B, do you like the current map set for all modes? Because I don't know how they play in Control and Hardpoint's kind of self-explanatory, but especially SND. Like,
Doug, I swear if you lie to me again, bro, like
Doug's thinking of the most politically correct answer right now.
No, I think, I've heard a lot of rumors about London Docs coming in, and I heard that for a long time now. So I think London Docs is going to come in at some point, which would be huge, but we need more than just London Docs. Like, that's
Does that even work on Control?
Bro,
that's a good question.
Bro, London Docs
but it would work Hardpoint SND. Obviously, that still leaves 2 Control maps.
Doug,
yeah.
London Docs
you could do Control. You could.
London Docs was a rumor before the game released, first off. And sorry to cut you off, Doug, but like, I'm not going to get my hopes up. I'm going to be honest. And the reason why is because it's only been like 3 months since release. 3 months. And Call of Duty already tweeted, the future of Call of Duty is going crazy or something like that. Stay frosty.
Hey,
I'm like, yo, they chalked this game up.
Doug had the
like,
floor for 5 seconds, and Chris was like, nah, you spit bullshit, bro.
Go ahead, Doug. Finish your statement.
So I think Bokage Hardpoint is the least competitive thing.
You say broke-ass Hardpoint?
Broke-ass Bokage. Hardpoint.
Okay.
It's the least competitive thing I've ever witnessed in my life. Even Bokage S&D, it really just comes down to like I play a lot of S&D chows now. Like I've been playing a lot, and it's just literally like, hey, do you want to run a middle map on offense and run through the doors, or do you want to slow work A? Or like I played a 5-5 wager with Byron, Proloot, Mohawk, and Scrappy, and we went 5-5 for $100. And like the 5-4 round, right? Proloot's like, yo guys, you trust me? Let's go B. I was like, no, Byron, trust. Like, let's just go A again. Dude, they 4 hit A and we lose. He's like, all right, you trust me? I'm like, yeah. He's like, I said B. I'm like, I bet. Dude, we just fly at the B bomb. No one's there. Plant the bomb. Like, get L. It's, I don't know. Like the maps to me, the biggest issue to me is the squad spawns, honestly, and the fact that we have 2 controls. Other than that, like, I don't really mind the maps. I think Boca just isn't competitive, especially with squad spawns. But the other maps, I think Berlin is a very good map overall. I think overall in every game mode, Berlin plays great. We should try to put Berlin Control back in and fix the spawns, though. Like, that's a small solution that we could have temporarily.
Is that why it was taken out? Sorry for interrupting. Like,
bad, yeah. I remember.
Just the spawns were really bad on it?
You would just spawn closer to a point on offense than the defense would, right? Like, that just is really what it came down to. I really think we got to put another 3rd control map in, though. I mean, this is just ridiculous. Like,
well, Doug,
it's coming down to a coin flip.
You're playing every day. What about time to kill, dude? I saw a lot of conversation about this on the timeline today, but like, should we not consider bumping time to kill to like 1 or the HP to like 150? Because the time to kill is so fucking fast. Like the headshot multiplier lowers pretty much every gun by a bullet, and like when you're talking about an automaton that's shooting as fast as it is, the MP40 shoots as fast as it does. Like people are getting incinerated. Like incinerated. It looks absurd on broadcast.
You want to start a funny argument here? So Warzone is the thing that everyone is super hype about in Call of Duty, right? And we take a lot of things from Warzone and we bring it to multiplayer, right? That's just been like a thing they've been doing. Okay, so now why not bring the time to kill? In time, like not all of it, but like in Warzone, it takes a lot more time to kill because people have armor most of the time and all that stuff.
What is it without armor though?
I don't know. It's probably something similar. It might be higher, but regardless, you play the game in Warzone. Most of the time to kill for people is a lot slower. You go play multiplayer, and people are dying in literally a bullet.
Bro, you don't even aim. You don't even have to aim your gun.
And like, the ADS is so fast, you just already aim.
Can we just bring in like armor, like not like that. It's just like random. Like everyone just starts with like armor
Just-
on their character. And
Well, can you even
your time to kill? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, realistically, that would actually be kind of cool. But can you, in the settings, can you even increase health, Pat, or no?
I think so. You can't. You've had
So
you've
like
been
they
able to in
could
the
test it
past,
out.
but it ruins grenades. But
Oh
I
man,
don't.
You want to one thing that I could even like just thinking about this now that I just came up with this idea. It could be good because hypothetically in a respawn mode, right? You have an even push where the arm like every team is armored off the rip, right? You have an even push, everyone's an even playing field, right? The team that wins the fight should hypothetically win it, but have less armor, right? Because you don't regen it. It's like you
The
just
problem is,
you have,
Chris, that's
right?
like that's
And
like
but-
a actual game development update.
Oh, yeah,
change.
yeah,
I'm
yeah, I
talking
mean,
about I'm talking about like putting a band-aid on this problem.
Okay,
Like
I
a quick
know,
fix,
yeah,
bro.
yeah,
A quick
true.
fix
But I
because
was
hey,
just-
it would be
I
cool
was just
though. Yo,
thinking
you win a
about it,
gunfight,
like-
you got to back down and just plate up real quick.
Well, no, I'm not saying played up again where you would get armor. I'm saying like you would have armor from
Like
the
every
rip of your
life, one
every
life,
life,
yeah.
and then your armor would deplete as you get shot. And so now it's like you win the team fight, you get into the point, but now your teammates have less armor, so you have positioning advantage where like
guy
you're
wants to
set up
play
for the
Halo
next
with
push.
no regen.
No, you're set
I
up.
mean,
You're set
dude,
up
he's
for the
not
next
wrong
push.
though.
I'm
It
saying-
would be ideal. to
Yeah,
do
so
it, but
you're
like,
set up for the next push advantageously position wise because the team that's attacking the hard point has to break it and come to you, and you have a good setup. But the advantage they have is like they technically have more health, so it makes it so breaking is less difficult, but it's still like you still have the positioning advantage from the offensive team. So it almost like balances out attacking and defending a hard point just by like adding that aspect of it. I don't know. Some weird.
But then to Doug's point, you're still dealing with squad spawns. Motherfuckers
Oh,
spawning right
yeah,
behind
It's
you.
true. But that's besides the point. I don't know, just a random thought. But yeah, I mean, definitely a band-aid increasing the time to kill would help because you go from like being like, oh, we have this stacked team with all this talent, and like Simp dies in one bullet. So like, how good is he when he just gets
I feel
one
bad
shot?
for the observers, bro. I feel like they're just constantly switching POVs. Like, damn, this motherfucker died like this. Keep going.
bro, that is, I don't know how they do it. That is the one, I think, real big positives for this weekend. Because, watching, well, I'll be honest, it was pretty entertaining, but I think it was more just because of how well the overall production value felt, especially with the spectator, or not the, what are they called? The observers. Like they were in sync with one another. And I feel like
they're like
at
a
least
full team now.
Yeah,
Like there's like a full team of observers.
which they be calling out harder than the pros that are actually playing. But it's like the maps that I watched, I felt like I saw almost every big play or important play, i.e. rotations or huge one-on-one gunfight that could sway the rest of that whole situation.
Well, I was gonna say they just made it as digestible as Vanguard allowed, right? Like they did a good job in terms of making it digestible for how fast this game is.
And it sucks because talk about the time to kill and everything is, bro, I hate watching like someone barely peek out and they're just shredded or they're shot through some wall that is completely wall bangable.
It makes it hard to appreciate, right? Like
there's nothing satisfying about it. You can't even like make a play. It feels like the game's just watered down. Like especially with hardpoint, even with the squad spawns, it's like, okay, you need to rotate early, hold this hill. If you break in the back and you're by yourself, wait until your teammates spawn up. But then it's just nonstop. These guys are clicking every button on the keyboard because it's one bullet dead, one bullet dead, one bullet dead. And I don't know if it's mostly a spectator thing watching. Like Doug and Chris, you could tell me. It just seems like people don't even aim. Like you don't have to aim. You literally just, if you're in their general area and you shoot, they just instantly drop.
Doug, you're probably the most qualified. How does it feel playing day in and day out?
Well, I think Chris is equally as qualified as me. He's been doing better than me on the game.
I'm qualified as well.
Well, I'm saying you're still playing, you're competing right now actively. So you're playing every day, you're scrimming. How does the time to kill kind of feel for you? And like, what's your opinion on it?
Well, I think subs, I mean, the subs are really good, obviously, but once you get to like a mid-range gunfight, if you don't have Carver on, your bloom is insane, and you're not going to be able to kill anything like long range. Like people say like, oh, the sub is so good. It's really, really, really good medium to close range, and it is horrible from long range. Like actually like you can't get kills. Like think if it's like Gavutu Ring and you're trying to shoot to back P4, you will 100% of the time never get that kill. Like never. And the AR will reign supreme every single time. So I think there's a balance in terms of that, where like at the long range, an AR is going to kill a sub every time. And at short range, a sub is probably going to kill an AR majority of the time. I just think the TTK is fast, but at the same time, like I actually find it enjoyable. Like Chris, you said you had to stop because the game broke you down. Like I love getting on and just playing the game. Like
Bro, I can't play
Yo,
a
Doug
game.
might be a serial killer, man, but you're my guy, Doug. That
it's
ass.
fun, man. Like
He
the
said,
game's
"I
fun.
love this
Like,
shit, man."
there's nothing I like more than like spawning in and just like absolutely having someone and like popping some crazy 2-piece and just being
Well,
like,
I mean,
shit on
shit, bro,
here.
no, you. I mean, I've tuned into your stream quite a bit when you've been scrimming and playing in,
Oh
the weekend cups. Like, you've been frying, so I can't imagine you're having fun. It's always fun when you're being like the best on your team.
It's just not fun when you're losing though. Like I haven't had a lot of success team wise on the game, but like as an individual, like dude, I can't get enough playing. Like I like the fast time to kills, even in Ghost when I play with you, Chris, and I broke your team down pat like multiple times. But like
Yo,
fast
broke
time
him
to kill
down
games,
bad.
bro. Like
What?
those fast TTK games, like I like them. Like
Okay,
they're fun.
I like fast TTK games. I don't mind it, but double sprint, worst thing in the game to ever happen to a video game. Because the thing is, you have to use it to cross the map. But it's one of those things where if you use it at the wrong time, and sometimes with COD being as unpredictable as it can be, if you double sprint, you die because of how
That's a fair
terrible
point.
the weapon handling is in the game. And that is probably one of the worst things about this game, is because when you double sprint, especially with an AR, which I guess it's fair, but like even with the sub, it happens. Like the time to kill so fast, you only have time to get your gun up. You just die. And it's like you have no choice, because let's say you're in the aggressor position where you have to break something or you have to engage. You have no choice but to hit the double sprint. So you're playing a RNG game, where it's like I double sprint here and the guy's not looking at me, or I double sprint here and I'm dead, and there's nothing I can do because I have to make that play.
Well,
I think it's just this era of COD games, to be
Well, that's
honest.
what I was about to say. So, like, we kind of know the era we're in, right? This super fast time to kill, and it doesn't really look like it's going to change, right? I mean, I know Infinity Ward tweeted like their most ambitious project.
COD in
up next.
space. That's what I heard.
What I'm curious of, because Chris, you kind of mentioned this, and Doug, you obviously have a different opinion, but if the game continues it the way it is, right, the style of COD that is currently being played, and we only have a few like real veterans left, mostly Clay, Crim, and Seth, right? If they don't perform well, if they have super lackluster years, do you see a world where they see what the next game is and decide that the money's just not really worth it to continue?
I see what you did there, Pat. You might as well shout out James, the producer.
Yeah, you talking about Scump?
That was a good segue.
I definitely can see that happening, but I don't know if it's going to be like the money's not worth it. I think it's going to be one of those things where it's like it's just going to impact your performance, because I've been a firm believer, if you don't enjoy what you're doing, you are going to suck. You're going to suck a lot more than somebody who actually enjoys what they're doing.
Well, that's my point, though, right? Like the money doesn't justify like what all that's going on, right? You're sucking. True. You get to the point where you're just not enjoying it. You're not getting on every day and wanting to improve.
Yeah,
I will say
where they could call it quits.
So I'll say this, and James, the homie who was the producer, he linked us like Scump's tweet that 30 minutes ago, a little bit. Is there's got to be light at the end of this? It's like, oh, is he going to retire? Like that's such a vague tweet, but I do think a lot of the veterans will retire soon, like end of this game, unless whatever this new generation of COD. I think if it's all just for show and it's still this era of COD, I think almost all the veterans will move on, unless the next COD is like unbelievable. But I don't think it's necessarily because of the game. Sorry, Chris.
You're good.
I mean, bro, you guys know we're all older now. You have different responsibilities when you get older. You have different passions as you get older. Like you want to do more things.
Your interest change.
Yeah, yeah. It's like the money is really good right now in Call of Duty, and especially when you look at certain players, right? Like Scump. This guy, he's not worried about money, and he's going to be successful in the content game where you can have fun. But like as you get older, you don't want to deal with the stress of competing, because that is like the worst part about it, is when you're not having success, when you're not playing well individually, and your team's not performing well, and then it becomes super volatile, because you get to a point where it's like, damn, am I going to get dropped? Am I going to get benched? And then you have nothing. So I think we will see, I could see Scump retiring. I could see Clay, Crim, depending on how this year goes and what the next COD is.
That's kind of my feeling. I think this year could decide that, right? Could be a huge player in how well they do. And Doug, I'm looking at your face and I'm like, what the hell
he's like, I'm not done till I'm 40.
But Doug, I think because Ian mentioned this, and I think you missed this, right? Because you did take a break there in your career where you kind of went away and didn't really have to deal with all the stress that does come with competing through some of those titles that you missed. And I think that was a positive thing for you because when you came back, you were hungry as fuck. Like you wanted to get back into it. You didn't care about the age gap. You didn't care about challengers. Didn't care about the system. You just wanted to play and wanted to win. But for those players that we're talking about, like Clay and Krimu and Seth, who have consistently been in the pro league, playing nonstop, dealing with that stress, it could get to him this year.
Well, I just think like I'm an older player and I also did take a break at the same time, so I understand the stress. Like, dude, I just lost to the team that got second and I placed top 32 because my teammates don't have as many pro points. So it's like I'm playing Tom Gravity, Jimbo, and these guys, and I'm losing to them, and I hate it, and I want to jump in my canal butt ass naked just to cool down because I'm so hot.
Subtle
like,
flex.
Mad.
Okay.
Like,
on my 2 jet skis, butt ass naked.
Dude,
Nobody can see me.
off
The
the
range is
yacht.
out front. Yeah.
No, it's like it's just like I know how hard like Tom's team and them work, but it just makes me mad because I'm like, nah, like they don't want to work as hard as me. They don't want to execute as good as I do. Like this ego that I have in me, it's like I just don't want to lose to those guys. And that feeling to me is stronger than the stress, and it's stronger than the idea of like having a bad year or like having a bad tournament or like the team not performing. Like I don't know. I just think it's like a mindset thing. Like wanting to be number one is something that I think a lot of people like Crim have always felt. Even you, Pat, you've always wanted to be number one. Even Chris, Ian, like you guys all have this competitive drive.
I was cool with number 2.
Never, bro. Never. No.
I'm kidding. No, you're right. You are. I mean, so it's been like a year and a half since I think I stopped competing, and there is that fire, right? And you can't replicate the feeling of competition, like being in that moment. It's a high, realistically.
Yeah.
And I think though what Pat said, I think it probably did help you a lot, Doug, is because, and I don't even know if you wanted to do it. Like this was like, yeah, I'm going to take a break and I want to kind of pursue another passion, another interest I have, which I don't know how many titles you took off, but you were doing your thing in the content scene. You know what I mean? Like blew up, massively successful. But like, because you did that and you kind of, I guess, got to get away from that day in and day out stress that everyone deals with competing, you were able to like realign yourself mentally. And like Pat said, like you came back like hungry because now this is like you trying to come back to your second prime. Like you're hungry to prove everyone wrong.
I'm better now than I was when I was winning. I know I am. I'm a better
A lot of us
now.
never took that break.
That's what I was saying. You almost had the vacation that every player who's been playing so long is like yearning for, like waiting to get to that point where they're like, okay, that vacation's, gonna exist down the road.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at you two, Chris and Pat, Doug, obviously me and you, we weren't as fortunate, but when you win the biggest event, and you win in multiple titles and you have an MVP title and you've had all the success in your career, it's hard to kind of get something that will light that fire because it's like you've experienced everything, good and bad. You don't really need to prove yourself to anyone. At least in this point, you're an all-time COD great. For all 4 of us. Pat will probably fall out of that list shortly next year or 2. But so it's just you kind of lose the drive. There's one thing that I really I don't want to say one thing like it's the only thing, but I'm jealous that you have, Doug, is that will. Because with me, when I decided to retire, it was just, I just didn't have that passion. Or not the passion, but I didn't have enough drive to like go through all the obstacles.
You weren't waking up every day just excited to get back at it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this, Ian, like, dude, I'm playing in challengers. Like, I'm pulling up the spreadsheet right now, man. And like, dude, I don't know how people perceive.
Doug's got a 1.4 in challengers. So like one of these teams got to pick him up.
Listen, I could give you my elite qualifier stats if you want them. That's all public information, twitch.tv/censor, but I don't know anyone in challengers that could do this, like the things that I'm doing, is statistically like speaking. But like, dude, I'm spawning in and like I'm playing on the 22 seed. I'm playing against Tom Gravity, who's considered a top 3 team in challengers. Like, if I lose this one and done online series to them, I'm getting top 32. People look at me like a low tier shit stain. Like, look, I don't know when LAN's gonna come back. I think it's gonna have a lot like drastic. Like I think when you play on LAN, it's different from playing in your bedroom. Honestly, like
Oh, for sure.
dude, I could go into a LAN and I could just laugh at all this competition on LAN. Like I'll laugh at their face. I'll laugh in the
How I
middle of the
felt
game.
for
Yeah,
a
like
while.
Chris, you know the feeling, man. Like I know for a fact I'll go in and whoever I play against, no matter how much trash talk they want, no
Yeah.
matter how crazy they're going on the map, I could do whatever they're doing times 2, and I'll
Speak,
laugh twice as hard in their face. But it's a lot harder doing it online every day, Ian. When you're spawning in, you're losing maps every day. You're playing with the team who's just not getting better. You're like trying to work your way
Your
up this
team's
pro point
changing each
ladder.
week.
Teams changing each week. It is, dude, I tell you, it's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. It's harder than building a big YouTube channel. It's harder than winning a major. Like, this is definitely the hardest thing. This Challengers
Yeah.
Online League is tough, bro.
Yeah, no, you're spot on.
Speaking from someone who just retired, Doug, all the stuff that you're talking about, I've been doing it for a lot longer than you have.
And you've been winning in it too, Chris. You've won in here multiple
here's
times.
the thing, that this is when I knew I was done. It's like I would not. So before it used to be like, okay, I'm not that excited to scrim. I could do that. I'm still excited to compete and look forward to the tournaments every weekend.
Mm-hmm.
When I knew I was done, I couldn't even bother wanting to get up to play a tournament. And like that's what always kept me going was the competition. So when I knew I didn't have the passion to even play a actual competition anymore. And it wasn't because I didn't think I could win, because I had a good team. Like right before I quit, I had Exotic, Royalty, and Diamond Com. That's a good
You
team.
guys were performing well, right?
We were doing pretty good. We weren't the best, but like
you did good in your Gav hardpoint that last map.
we did pretty good. And I was and if you watch the actual tournaments, I did play well in the tournaments, not in
definitely did.
But regardless, I knew I was done when I looked at like I was like thinking about it. I'm like, bro, I think I've done everything I've could. I've won in challengers multiple times. I've proven to myself that I could like be a top performer under any circumstances in challengers, which is very volatile. Like last year, I like went through like a qualifier with a pickup team of like people that have never placed well, like in challengers for a while, and I ended up qualifying, beating out a whole bunch of teams, and I had like a superstar performance.
You won you won the elite.
I won an elite with basically a team no one would thought would basically win, and I'm not shitting on any of my challengers teammates, but you get the point.
Say their name.
I did everything I could for myself as a competitor, as a teammate, as a leader, to prove that like, hey, I can still do this. I think I deserve a shot to play with, people that I feel like are up to my standards. But even that, outside of competing, I was like, I'm a person that likes to spit knowledge about how like Call of Duty should be and the state of Call of Duty and how things can get better and how things should improve. And seeing it go downhill, seeing everyone hate on it, seeing all the negativity surrounding a franchise that I've spent half of my life on. Realistically, I've been playing Call of Duty for what, like 13 years. I'm 27. That's damn near actually half of my lifetime playing Call of Duty. Seeing it in that much of a negative light, like when it's something that you kind of like love, right? It's like that drains me. Like that drained me because it's like a part of me, right? So like I felt like I did everything I could. I felt like I've did everything I could for this scene, and I didn't feel like I was ever going to accomplish what I wanted to, and I didn't feel like I was getting anywhere, and I couldn't even force myself to have that fire to keep proving it to myself because I felt like I already did, or prove it to other people. So I retired. And I feel like other players are going to get to that point. Like looking at Scump's tweet, it's like, this guy's proven everything to himself, man. He has nothing to prove to anybody. But if he's still having lackluster results because for some reason he keeps either getting unlucky or he can't seem to put it together, and he's not having fun, like, and all this stuff just keeps piling and piling and piling, just like how it did for me, it's going to drive people out. And it's not their fault. Like, from a person that's been doing this for so long, like a person can only take so much. And people think it's like, dude, you're playing a video game. Bro, you're not playing a video game. Like, it's not just a video game. It's something that you put in hours and hours and hours and countless effort into, and you're not getting results that you're expecting, and it sucks. So
yeah, and to kind of finalize that too, because I just think you get to the point where if you start believing that, like, you're at this tail end part of your career, right? And you feel that you're not going to be able to win again, because Ian, you mentioned it, like that's the driving force, is that hunger to win, right? That's the only reason you're doing it. If you start feeling like, whatever the situation is, you're not happy with your team, the results aren't coming, whatever. If you start feeling like, hey, I'm not going to reach my goal, that's where you start considering like, is it time for me to just to
Can
call?
I do better things with my time?
Even if it's
Yeah.
not your fault, like even if
Right,
you
no,
feel like you're still
100%,
at the
yeah.
top of your game and stuff like that, it's just going to be at that point. It's like it's
At
not
the end of
worth
the
it
day,
anymore.
it's a team game, right? Like
Mhm.
this is not a solo show. So
Well, James, I don't know how much longer we're gone with this, but because I know we want to get into maybe like the predictions, but with what you said, Chris, and just all our talk about some of the vets retiring, do you guys think if say, I mean, who are like the most popular veteran players? Scump, Cream Clay, Slasher.
I would say Scump, Crim Clay are like the top three.
Well, yeah, they're like the
front.
top three. But so when you think the players that played in our generation, by the way, Doug's like Dirk Nowitzki, where he played in like 4 different decades. You
Yeah,
know
but
what I'm saying?
I'm not a pro though. I'm a challenger.
You know, you'll be a pro, Doug. Yeah, if someone doesn't give you an opportunity this year, then I don't know what to tell you there.
Well,
Drunk.
honestly, it just comes down to league expansion, right? Like it's just that's
That too.
that's
If
what's
it-
been holding the CDL back. But go ahead.
So if these guys retire, say this year or relatively soon, like with the new generation of players, I wonder if it's going to be the same in the sense of personalities, you know, because when I feel like before I even started competing in COD, right, I was a Halo pro, and this was around Black Ops 2. And I saw, you know, your team, Pat, I saw Chris, Doug, everyone. But not only were you guys super talented, super successful, there were a lot of big personalities amongst the top. You know what I mean? Everyone could be outspoken. You know, there were villains in the scene. There were the funny guys, et cetera, et cetera. With a lot of the top players now, and I don't know if it's just because they're new and it takes time or what, but I feel like I don't really know anything of like nothing is gravitating me towards any one of them, like the top dogs.
No,
And
there's
I
no
don't know, like,
personality.
do you
There's
think
no
that will kill the scene completely?
I don't know. That's a weird question because we don't really know what's actually driving the scene. We think it's the players, but like who knows now with like the new generation of like COD players? Like will they still watch? Like will they still get a few viewers? Sure, I'm sure they will. But like there just seems like there's no more soul in COD. Like I don't look at any of these players, these up and coming players, and being like, wow, like this guy's. I want to tune into this guy. I can relate to this guy. It seems like a lot of these people are robots now. And then
That's what I'm saying.
it doesn't feel like there's any soul, man. Like
I think
don't know.
if there is anything, it feels forced. You know, like
Yeah.
I hated Pat's guts after he teammated me. You remember that, Chris? And you know, and playing against him, but like
I was asking for my autograph before that, though. Let's get that.
Hey, I remember when COD had one single bench, brother, and you was watching Halo. But like even before I knew Pat, right, was even in the scene, I was fucking with the whole villain arc, like that. You know, he very straightforward, blunt, call it how it is, whatever the case may be, smartass. But that's just who Pat is, you know. And then you have someone like Scump, or I mean. Look at Doug, for example. Doug is like a very motivational person, positive. Like there's so many different personalities and I guess just way people put themselves out there that anyone that's a fan of Call of Duty, you can gravitate towards certain players, you know, for whatever you kind of like or you enjoy watching. And it's all natural. It's organic. But like, you know, there's the FaZe villain thing that they're doing this year. And I've seen some other players do it. It's like, I just don't like that. Be who you are.
Yeah,
and build your personality for who you are organically.
I think the reason why that was even a thing, the reason we feel like that is because prior to the CDL and you know before COD got serious, like super serious, like even the MLG days, a lot of our business and stuff like that and our personalities and stuff like that were constantly under a spotlight. Like streams were everywhere, 8's streams were everywhere.
That's true.
Saw the player interactions and stuff like that.
And I guess it wasn't as professional.
Yeah, it wasn't as professional.
Well, I think that's been one of the biggest downsides is that push toward professionality or just being more professional in general, copying that traditional style of sports, you know, wanting to censor everything to be very mature and well spoken about. we were always the WWE of esports, and we were always rough around the edges. So the fact that we leaned into that more professional thing, I think hurt everybody involved. Everybody, every player, every up and comer trying to, look at, the players that they aspire to be and trying to follow this perfect pattern of who to be. I think that was a terrible, terrible idea for everybody involved. So to me, I think going that direction in Call of Duty in general is what really hindered that process. But Ian, to your point about FaZe, could you imagine how fucking dope it would have been if, as soon as that those guys teamed, right, like right off the United thing, they took on that villain role and then won everything? You know how dope that would have been the coldest storyline ever.
Well,
but the fact that they
just
did it randomly out of nowhere is what
that's
made it
why
seem
I like
not authentic.
Like yours and Crims, like kind of, even though I think that's naturally who you guys are, you're not putting on a show for anyone. Even if you were, I mean, who cares? But it was the whole experience behind it. But yeah, you don't go from like being the kind of soft-spoken, like chill team that FaZe or any other team for that matter, and then you have all this success, and then you try and like flip the switch. I don't know.
You know who the best example is? Sib. He had that edgy attitude, right? In challengers, he was looked at as like this kid with just attitude problems, reckless, whatever. Obviously, everyone's going to mature and grow up. That's just life. But he was looked at, and that was a super negative perception of him. Like, everyone didn't want to play with him because they thought he was just this problem kid.
Yeah, toxic.
But now he's literally probably the best player in the game and the best investment Seattle ever made.
But he is. Doug, I don't know if you want to add anything to that, like on your opinion, just with the personalities and if,
Dude, yeah, it makes me sick, Ian, honestly. Like, I like to look at performance before everything else. Like, people would always say, because I've talked to Dante and Challenger since last year. He would always, because he was friends with Joe Destiny, and he was always hanging out with them, and I was on that team for a little bit. And I'd always say to Dante, I'm like, it's a crime you're in this thing, dude. Like, I'd always tell him, I like on the side, I'd always be like, dude, it's a crime you're in here. You're the most talented kid in Challengers. You're the most talented. I'd say it all the time.
He's unbelievable.
He is the most, like, I'd look at his game and I'm like, there's no one in this Challengers thing that could do what Dante does. And I'd talk to other Challengers players and they would be like, yeah, Dante's good. And I'm like, no, he's not good. He's great. Like, you must be some low tier shit if you think he's just good. Like, you're an idiot if you think he's just good. This kid is amazing. Like, people can't do what this guy could do. And I don't like how the way the league works. I don't know if it's the politics of it or the structure of it. Like, you could have seen it in aBeZy's face today when he's like, yeah, we appreciate the fan support. Like, I'm sure if I was Tyler, I just want to tell everyone to go fuck off. Like, I would want to tell them all to go fuck off all the time. I'm like, what are you going to say about me? I'm the best SMG in COD. I've won everything. I have the best team. Like, get off of me. Like, I would want to be saying that so bad if I was FaZe, but there has to be something holding those guys back from speaking their mind. And I feel like a lot of people in the league hold back from speaking their mind because everyone's so worried about being toxic. And it's like, no, you're in a competitive environment. You have to perform. You have a lot of passion. That should be the primary focus, the passion and the performance. Everything else should be secondary. The toxicity and all that bullshit should all be secondary. But for some reason, people would rather have you get on every day being all chipper, like, hey guys, like, nice try, man. We just lost. Let's do it again next week. Yeah, like, look, guys, we just got top 16 or top 32 again. Let's do it again next week. Yeah, like, let's be great teammates. Like, fuck all that, dude. Like, do you want to win and be number one? Or do you want to be a loser? Because you're never going to be a pro if you're not winning. You have to be winning or getting top 4 or be putting up the best stats in challengers and getting like top 8 or top 4 if you want to be a pro. So
yeah, I'd rather be a toxic winner over a cheerful loser any day of the week.
100%.
Yeah, that's 100%. And I mean, it has to deal with, I guess, the league trying to be more professional like traditional sports. But I think even then, like, as long as you don't go off the rails completely, and this doesn't have to be a toxic thing or negative, you can let your personality come through, right? In your inner, like, you look at any notorious athlete. Talk about football, Terrell Owens, Randy Moss. They very cocky. They like to have a lot of fun. They were obviously successful, and you could go to like Allen Iverson, Kobe. They had big personalities, and there's a lot of players who I feel like have a lot to give in the terms of the content scene, and it's not to say it should overshadow competing, like you said, Doug, but in interviews, let a little bit more of that out of who you actually are. Have fun with it, as long as you're not going a mile past the line where it's just like, yo, we can't have this guy in front of camera.
As long as you're not using any derogatory terms or
Exactly.
any super offensive stuff, just be yourself.
It just seems like everyone's playing it safe, right?
It's very AI. NPCs, like, I don't even know if they're real. And I get it. You don't want to get fined, whatnot, but I just think it adds. I think there needs to be a new generation of players, Pat. And then I'll let you go, where people can attach themselves to them as a person and as a player.
I just think that AI, kind of what you're talking about, that AI role that players are kind of playing, that play it safe mentality, draws so much attention away from the league, right? Like, if I just watch somebody fucking fry and they go on and like very soft spoken, like, yeah, my team played very well. We practiced. We were well performed or well prepared coming in this event, and yeah, it was a good game. Like, no, like,
yeah, that's whack.
Like, come on, like, yo, I just shit on them. Like, I told them I was gonna beat them backstage, and I beat them.
The sad thing is, the only reason why this is a conversation is because the game is not in a state where it alone can attract a fan base or viewership.
It never has.
It never has. So I agree with you, but it's definitely gotten worse. So we kind of need that, and I don't know if people realize that's what we need. Because unless the game just ends up becoming a super successful game where people, like, let's be real, no one watches the game on Twitch.
Well, the problem is they're competing against Warzone, right? Like, that's the issue.
But people will watch somebody that is terrible at the game and entertaining because they watch them for them. And like, that's the thing that people don't understand is, like, you want to
Catman every day.
Yo, deadass. Tim is hilarious. I don't know. I just think
that's the point that I'm saying. It's like, it shouldn't be a personality over gameplay first, but the sad reality is we have to realize that it is for Call of Duty, and we need more people to be, themselves. And
because our scene was always fans of the personalities and not fans of the game. Like, the game was just the center point of what got you there, but what got you really involved and passionate about following the scene was all the personalities that were involved playing the game. It wasn't just watching the game and respecting players for their skill on the game. It was everything else that kind of went into that process. So yeah, I don't know. I think the new era of players are playing that safe mentality, and I think a lot of it comes down to back when Call of Duty was blowing up, there was so much more passion involved because there was no money involved, right? Like, if you wanted money, you had to beat the person you were playing at a tournament. But now everyone's got a safety net. And as the scene grows on and the eras, all these players develop, everyone's became friends, right? They've all teamed with each other at some point. Back in the day, I feel like there were players that I just knew I would never team with, right? Like, I knew that those guys, I'm never playing with them. I'll never be on their team. And I just don't think that's really the case now. With how the format's set up, I feel like...
You said that about me, Pat, and you ended up winning with me. You hated me. You
that boy was lying, dog.
At what point am I talking about? And I got you a chip.
I don't think you were an example that I was kind of talking about. More so just like the rivalries that I had with certain players. Like, me and you were really good friends since BO1, basically. Like, we always kind of chirped in game, but like, we were always really good friends offset. But I'm saying, like, now I feel like there's everybody's friend. And so, like, that opportunity, Ian, for that organic type of like shit talking rivalry personality development doesn't really exist now, because everyone wants to remain kind of, even kill with everybody. You don't want to burn any bridges. That's kind of my take.
I hate that so much, dude. I really do.
Thank you, Doug. I hate it because you're right, Pat. You are. I know we've kind of been talking about this for a while, but it is something I think is important to be said, is for all of us when we started competing. I remember getting my first salary, like guaranteed money on Curse.
$500 went crazy.
Yeah, $500 a month. And then as the years went on, it basically doubled. It went to like 1,200 to 2,500 to, now we're at a point where damn near everyone in the CDL, you're making six figures not guaranteed. Obviously, there's new
pretty
much guaranteed. But so, yeah, there is maybe a little bit difference in the passion, but I don't think the new players, especially the ones who are talented, I don't think they understand that it's not like you need to be streaming. You need to be putting content out to help grow COD. Because do I think it would be beneficial? Yes. Do I think that that's the most important thing or the end all be all? No. But the same thing that you said, Chris, right? With it comes down to the game a lot. People don't really watch competitive COD. They're watching Warzone. Even if you look at a traditional sport, you know, I love watching someone who's unbelievably skilled. But that extra sauce on top of someone who has a personality, it doesn't have to be toxic, you know, could be easy going, but you could tell they're having fun with it, like a Terrell Owens, like a Allen Iverson. You know, they might, like a Joel Embiid, who's my current favorite, where he just trolls half the time. You can hardly understand the guy too, but he trolls half the time, but he's having fun with it. And it's like that extra wow factor goes a long way, and it could help you out in the future. Even if it's like, don't look at it like, oh, I'm not doing this content stuff to help COD out. My only goal is to win. Who knows how long this is going to last? You know, especially at the level of money that the players are making now, like these young guys where they've never even come close to this amount of money. Was hitting the bank account every, 2 times a month. That shit could go from 100 to 0 very fast.
Oh, for sure.
You know, so you just need to expand yourself and I think have more fun with it, which will then also create more passion and more interesting storylines where, maybe there are some rivalries, maybe whatever the case may be, but at least there's some substance instead of, oh, this team won, interview with the guy. Oh yeah, it was good. We practiced, proud of the team. And that's it. It's like,
to summarize before we get into these predictions, I think it's at a point in Call of Duty where it is more important than ever to stand out, right? Just in kind of in all aspects of who you are, your game, your personality, and kind of ask yourself a question like what's gonna happen if this stopped tomorrow, right? What's it gonna look like for me? What am I gonna do? Because I think that would kind of wake some people up in terms of how they view their current situation.
Spot on, Pat. I don't normally agree with you, but enough. I've listened to Pat ramble. Jesus, Doug, I know, earful. The second week of the CDL was stage 1, season 1. I don't know what.
It's just like the first week of the stage 1, yeah.
Stage major 1, whatever, is going to happen. Obviously, we can't run through all the teams. Pat, I know you picked out 3 for us to kind of do a little prediction pick'ems real quick. So I want everyone to go through when it is your turn and just who you think is going to win and like 1 or 2 sentences on why. Because or else we'll be here all day listening to Pat. The first match, let me pull it up, sorry. So these, Pat picked these. Pat
these are the most important matches for me week 2.
Yes, there you go. The first one he has is London versus the Minnesota ROKKR. Doug, we can start with you because I feel like you have a lot to say. If you want to wait before you go too, you might be able to get on one of these teams depending on how they do. So you need to sell it a little bit.
Watch what you say.
Look, Chris, I mean, you could talk from experience. I gotta be winning in challengers to be getting considered, I feel, honestly. Like getting top 32 ain't cutting it. I think that Minnesota's gonna win it just because I trust their team more. I think London, obviously they won a game 5 round 11. They have some really good rookies that look great online. They did not look good on LAN. They've been a little hot and cold. I know what I'm gonna get out of Minnesota though. Like I trust those players. I think the London players have a lot to prove still. Gizmo and Nasty play great in challengers. Afro, one of the best players in COD, honestly. He's one of the most underrated players I think we have in the game. And then you got Trey, who's kind of like seen as the Lamar of a team, where he's the consistent guy who's going to do his job and clutch up, which I don't like that stigma that those guys have because I think they're good winning players. But I think Minnesota should win the series, and I think they should win it 3-2. I think they're going to Neslo it, actually. I think they'll lose the hard points, and they'll win the control and S&D.
Did you just say Neslo it?
Oh yeah, it's the most like
wow.
Dude in challenges. Yeah. Everyone's talking about Neslo in these days. I love
it's a term made for people that win games 3, 4, and 5, right? Or 3.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I asked Doug for
2, 3, and 5. 2, 3, 5.
The revenge, the TR. Remember, that's all they did in AW.
2, 3, 5.
3.
Dude, I mean, look at FaZe last year, man. Like they didn't Neslo teams, obviously, but they never lost control.
You gotta stop saying that, please.
No, I'm just saying, like they were dominant because they never lost control and they never lost search, and they were really good at hardpoint. But like,
I asked Doug for once. I have to cut you. I asked Doug for 1 sentence, and now he's explaining this term called Neslo. Doug, I love you.
Minnesota 3-2 over London.
There you go.
Okay, Chris, go ahead. Rapid fire.
I think I want to say London's gonna win it. I just have a lot of confidence in Nasty Gizmo, man. They've been looking really good, and ROKKR struggles on respawns, and I think that's what London is looking really good on right now. But the S&D's also been solid, so I think they're gonna beat ROKKR, and it's probably gonna be like a 3-1.
Okay, Pat.
Chris was just absolutely robbing my thoughts, but yeah, I think London's got the edge here, mostly because of respawn. It's kind of sad to think about, but we'll see what happens with that coin flip for game 3, because I feel like that could be a deciding factor for who wins that. I think the ROKKR would prefer to play Gavatu, just off of kind of their team dynamic and the fact that Major Maniac's been so good so far. But yeah, I'm gonna go London. I'm not sure what the map count. I wouldn't surprise to see a game 5, but hoping for a 3-1 for London if I got them.
Okay. Hey, if Chris was robbing your thoughts, I'll be your Batman. You know what I'm saying, Batman? I have London winning this though. I think they have a lot of potential. They look really good. I think they're starting to get in rhythm. The younger guys, especially, be more comfortable in the matches. And with Minnesota, I know they had a big win versus OpTic, but with where OpTic stands right now, I don't really know how to gauge like how big of a win that actually was.
True.
So we just have to wait and see. But so us 3 went London. Doug, you went Minnesota?
3-2. Yeah, I think they're
okay. Yeah, they're gonna Neslo him. They're gonna
Neslo, man.
Dude, that sounds so. I don't know why it sounds so wrong. But the second most important match, Pat chose New York Subliners versus the Los Angeles Thieves. Doug, start off again. No new terms though.
I think New York's gonna bounce back, and I think they're gonna win that 3-2. I know it's everyone's like, oh, Thieves, they're so good. I think New York is just honestly
hey, watch it.
Good. Look, New York had 2 bad series online. They looked good online. Thieves obviously look good on LAN and online. But look, you got Clay Crim, Neptune Hydra. It's early in the year. Neptune just had his worst series of his life, I think. I think they're gonna have a nice team talk, and I think they're gonna come back and win that series 3-2.
Okay, you're completely wrong, Chris.
Okay, sorry. 1 second, I was distracted. But I think I think the Thieves are just gonna take it. I don't really know if I'm gonna see anything out of New York. I don't have really a lot of faith in their team right now. LA Thieves has looked better than New York, unless they turn around drastically from the week that they just had. It's gonna be a Thieves like 3-1, 3-0.
Feel the same way, Pat?
So the reason I picked this match is because this is obviously the first match the New York are going to play. They're 0-2 right now, and I think if they don't win this Thieves series, then they're like guaranteed loser bracket for the major. So for me, I think Thieves is going to win. I don't know if New York can bounce back that fast. I'm hoping they do, because otherwise it's going to be bad news bears for the Subliner crew. But yeah, no, this is the starting point for them. If they can win it, then maybe they can continue that momentum on the rest of the weeks to get out of the hole they're in. But yeah, I see the Thieves taking it. They're just a better team at the moment.
Yeah, I think it's 3-0, 3-1. Not even being biased either. NYSL just haven't shown me anything. And it's not even like their games have been competitive like we talked about. They're just kind of getting bodied. They're getting bulldozed. Besides the kickoff win, first breach, none of the series have been relatively close, in my opinion. LAT do look like they're one of the stronger teams, even though they lost to FaZe last week. But I think that they should be able to handle it pretty easily. So that's another 3-1. Doug, you just try to be the difference here. That's it.
And he's going first, too.
Hard, man.
Or maybe
Doug,
maybe we're all just ganging up on him.
Yeah. No, Doug, I agree with you, though. I think they have to bounce back here. So I think you kind of have that on your side where it's do or die for them.
Well, this one is going to be interesting to hear your guys' thoughts. Paris versus OpTic. Doug, actually, no, we'll go Pat first. First.
I am praying for just the soul of all those OpTic players if they don't win this match. Like, dude,
it's going to be bad.
This team was supposed to be a guaranteed top 3 powerhouse, and they're starting slow as hell and looking sloppy. So, I don't know. I for some reason feel like they're not going to put it together in time, and I feel that Paris is going to somehow sneak an upset, and it's gonna come on the back of 2 S&Ds. I think it's almost a guaranteed game 5. I just don't think OpTic's gonna put it together fast enough. I think they're in their head right now, and they're playing sloppy. So I'm gonna go Paris 3-2.
Hey, at least you said it. See, Doug, that's why I save you, right? Because OpTic fans are just gonna cook Pat, but he's used to that, anyways. Chris, go ahead. You think Paris is gonna upset? Well, I don't even know if it'd be.
No. I don't think they're. I don't
Is it even considered an upset?
I don't know if it. Yeah,
come on, that's
considered an upset
disrespectful,
still.
bro. It's still disrespectful.
Yo,
I still
Pat's
think
tripping.
I think OpTic is gonna win. I think I know why you chose this match, because if they were to lose this, it would be freaking horrendous. Like, but I still think OpTic should win this. If they don't, I don't even know what to say anymore, because this is just getting
It's a breakdown
ridiculous.
if they don't, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's getting ridiculous at this point. Like, how much more can those guys take? How much more can Scump take? If you look at his tweet, it's kind of sad. But I mean, they should win it. But if they don't, for some reason, I don't even know what to tell you anymore. OpTic should win 3-1, 3-2.
Okay, so 1 for Paris, 1 for OpTic. Doug, let's hear it. Hey, Doug, you can go crazy on this one. Give me a breakdown if you have to.
Just FaZe
It's a
wins.
big this is a big matchup.
Team wins. That's his prediction.
It's a huge matchup for OpTic because they need to bounce back. It's also huge for Paris because they're also 0-2, but I think OpTic's going to 3-0 them. I just don't see a world where OpTic loses this
I thought he
series
was
to
going to
Paris.
give me some. Okay, 3-0. You don't think that there's a shot?
No. The way that these players match up against each other, I just think that there's no shot that OpTic loses this series.
But Paris took FaZe game 5, Doug, and that's kind of the same boat, same conversation. They match up equally, in my opinion.
To me, I just feel that there's certain players and like team compositions that just like don't match up well versus each other. Maybe I'm wrong. Like maybe they could clip this and use it as motivation and prove me wrong. But like I can't see a world where OpTic's 0-3 and they lost to Paris. And although I like the Paris team and I think the players are good, the OpTic team to me is better and the players are better and they should win that series. And I think they're gonna win that series 3-0. Like I just don't see them losing that, to be honest.
No, I agree with you, Doug. With matchups and when you look at the two teams, I think the only way OpTic lose this series is if they're really in their heads from starting out 0-2. And then they start trying to double guess every decision they make, because Paris they have nothing to lose. I think they're going to play very loose. They might throw some creative strats in the way of OpTic, whereas OpTic is going to be a lot more structured, and I don't want to say like they're not going to be stressed to play perfect, but I feel like after the way the two series have went so far, they really want to make sure that they fundamentally can play a full game correctly without, and being able to close the game out. So I think the only way that Paris wins is if OpTic is just completely in their head. I don't think it's going to happen, but if it does, I'll add a little sauce onto this, even though no one asked. I think OpTic will make a team change. If they get beat by Paris, maybe not instantly, but they will for sure make a team change, because that would almost guarantee them and losers as well, right, Pat?
I think almost for sure. Unless some crazy tiebreaker happened, they're almost guaranteed losers.
And this goes for any team, because I'm not about to get slaughtered by OpTic fans. If any team was to start out like that, you kind of know what your ceiling is off rip. Even though it's online, you're going to be playing this majority of the year. Even if it's a one-person swap, sometimes that's all you need. But so we have 3 OpTics this time, because I do think they're going to win. And Pat, you went first and you chose Paris. Interesting.
Dude, I don't know, man. I'm all over the place with this OpTic team, and I don't know what to think. So I think Paris could surprise us, and we'll see.
All right, well, everybody, I hope you guys enjoyed the first episode of Reverse Sweep. We want to know in the comment section below your pick'ems for every match in week 2. Do you think Paris has an opportunity to upset OpTic? Do you think, I don't even know if I could say this, you think LAT could lose? I don't think they could lose. I think they're going undefeated. But also, if you have any comments on anything else we said, do you think OpTic should make a team change? Do you think Paris can be a black horse this year? The list goes on. Let us know in the comment section below. We appreciate you guys as always. And until next week, we'll see you later.